and get this thing going.
All righty.
Well, hello. We are now just gone live. We are Life's Co-Pilot is bringing you the family talk on how to have that talk with mom when all of a sudden you realize that mom or dad is maybe needing some help. And we are coming up towards, I guess it's August now, but especially with holidays when we come together for get together for family. That's a lot of times when these conversations start to take place. We have some other panelists that I think will be arriving here shortly, but we'll get this thing going here shortly. So basically, let's just get going. And I'm going to do some introductions real quick. And on my screen, Dave, you're the first one to my right. So I'm going to say hi and let you kind of tell who you are, what your company does, and what your scope of services are.
Sure. So thanks, Jim. My name is Dave Holder. I'm the owner of Assisted Living Locators of North Indy. So we are your local senior living advisor for families or seniors that are looking to make the transition to any type of senior living, be it independent, assisted, or memory care. You don't know where to start, you're overwhelmed by choices, and you need someone to guide you through that process and help you navigate that. That's what I do, and it's a no-cost service, so I work directly with you from start to finish to understand what your needs are, what you're looking for, big picture, financial-wise, all of that, to providing recommendations and then accompanying you on the tours, either virtually or in person, organizing all those notes for you and just streamlining the process. And I serve North Indy, including Hamilton County, Boone County, and there to be a resource for you. So thanks, I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Well, Regina, you're on my screen, you're next to Dave. So I'll let you get going here real quick.
All right. I'm sorry I just went in the dark, but I'm sitting in a room where the lights, if there's no movement, they go in and out. So I'm not moving. But anyway, I'm Regina with Independent Adult Day Centers, and I wear many hats. So the hat that I'm wearing today is the interim ED. So I'm hanging out at the Guyan location, and what we do is provide adult day services for adults aged 18 and over who are living with various cognitive diagnoses, anywhere from Alzheimer's to strokes or intellectual disabilities, what have you. We provide transportations to and from the guest home to our centers. We provide transportations to their doctor's appointments or any type of social services that they would need to take care of. We do provide that social service counseling that they would need. We provide healthcare coordination, which is huge, making sure that their physicians are all intact and know what's going on with the guests in our setting, in their home. We do med management, med reminders, we set them up. So we provide bathing services. We have our in-house chef, and we have a new chef. Jim, you have to come over and try this guy out. He is amazing.
All righty.
Yep. So we provide that kind of a well-rounded services for the guest and the caregiver, just kind of helping guide those processes from the beginning to the end, early stage of dementia to end stage, and anywhere in between.
Excellent. Well, and again, I'm following my little pictures on top of the screen. So Amber, I'll have you go to the next explanation who you are. So
awesome. I am Amber Gerard. I'm with Home Care Assistance. We provide private duty, which is also referred to as non-medical home care. So we can be in the home as little as 4 hours at a time, all the way up to 24/7, providing anything from companion care all the way up to full personal care. So that is us.
All right, well, very good. So Jen, I see you popped up there. I hadn't had a chance to say hi yet, so I'll let you tell me about you.
Hi. Yes, I'm Jen. I'm with Comfort Care Home Care, very similar to Amber. So we provide services in their home or anywhere they call home. We go into facilities, we go into their residential homes, and we provide anywhere from 1 hour to 24 hours a day. So we can go in for as little time as they need, and we do provide companion care through full personal care. We use Hoyer lifts, slide boards, gate belts, all that kind of thing. We specialize in dementia, so we do have a program called Dementia Wise that it's specialized. Our caregivers get the training. Our office has been certified, so we're able to help those that have any sort of dementia or Alzheimer's disease, among other diseases too. But we are definitely certified for that, and we cover Marion and surrounding counties. We offer payer sources through private pay, as well as long-term care insurance policies. We do VA benefits. We do Medicaid waiver and Medicaid PA. So if you can't pay privately, there are some other ways to go about that, but that's about it. That's us.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Renee, you're next on my screen, so we'll let you come out here. So, your sound is off.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. I should say good afternoon. I'm Renee Anderson with Caring Transitions, and what we do is we downsize, relocate, and help families when they're liquidating and wanting to get rid of all the extra stuff that they have when they're going to a smaller space. One of the big things that we do is the caring part, because we know it's a big transition. The top 3 stressors of anybody's life is moving, divorce, and a death. And a lot of times we have a little bit of all of those sometimes we're working with. So we go in and we kind of assess. We have a free consultation. We'll go in, we'll look and see what they have, where they're at, what their goals are, and then we'll make up a plan for that. Sometimes that just includes us helping them move from one place to the other. Sometimes that includes moving from one place to the other and then getting rid of a lot of things. Sometimes it's only a few things. And we will help them pack, sort and organize, help them figure out which relatives they want things that are extras, that they want to go to different places, or find out where we need to donate those things, or pretty much whatever they're looking for. We want to try to help them, give them an empty home at the end so that they can, like I said, liquidate their house and then move to their other place. Also another thing that we do is helping them figure out where they're going when they're going there. If they have the place identified, then we are going to go ahead and help them try to do some space planning so they can figure out how much stuff they can take and what is going to fit. Usually we start off with just kind of, like I said, finding out what their goals are, and then we come full circle. But we want to customize it. We have a concierge of like over 20 services that we provide to help them get from point A to point B. And so we're just there to walk them through it. So.
Well, thank you. Michael, hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm with, my name is Michael Lampkin. I'm with Senior Home Companions. We're a personal service agency like Amber and Jen's companies. We help folks here in the city with personal care, companionship, transitioning home from hospitals. We also have a memory care cottage called Story Cottage on 86th Street, where we provide 24/7 dementia care for about 8 residents.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Well, guys, I'll tell you what, one of the things that this is a topic that how many in here on this panel have had to have these family conversations? Okay. So, this is, so it's not a new thing to any of us. I don't know about y'all, but for me, that's probably, those conversations are what drove me into the senior world, because I was doing it as a consumer and making all kinds of mistakes and not knowing what the heck we were doing. And our family is probably extraordinarily unique, okay? And it's worked for my in-laws, my parents, and what have you. What we did is we basically kept pushing the ball down the road and kicking the can. We would get together and we'd start talking, well, gosh, what are we going to do? And then we get into a fight, and then we'd kick it down the can further, and then we'd do it again until all of a sudden crisis came about, and then we had to make really fast choices. So I know we're unique. Everybody else does this much more smoothly. But, I mean, did your families all do it pretty smoothly, or how did this all work for you guys?
No, for me, it was the same way. And I've been in healthcare for 36 years and thought I knew exactly what to do. And I stood in the middle of St. Vincent's on the 6th floor crying with my face buried in a social worker's neck, sobbing, "What do I do?" I had no idea what to do, and I am a geriatric social worker, and I did not know what to do. So it did not start for me. I had no clue. So I
I'm
knew.
not sure if you're making me feel better or worse here. But
I think
mean,
most
you
people
No, you
go
don't.
through like a fire drill. It's a fire drill. It's like all of a sudden, then you forget the plan as soon as the fire goes off. I mean, the fire drill goes off, and that's where it's nice to have those resources in place that you kind of know that you can reach out to go
Yeah.
and find.
did anyone else have awkward family conversations or?
My family was my father-in-law's dementia that it just there was no proactivity. It was just after a really bad 3 or 4 days in the home, in his home, that we realized we had to make a change and to try to navigate all those choices. And, it was really, really stressful on everyone, my wife and mother-in-law and 2 sisters. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough to make that in a crisis move like that.
The funny thing was with my in-laws, what we had was, we do the downsizing and relocating. So they had done that, but it was all the other services that all of a sudden we're like, oh, what do we need? We need to get somebody in to help. I mean, when they had a crisis, that's where we needed to reach out and have somebody coming into the home and helping, making a plan for my mother-in-law, getting that support system set up. That was probably where we were the most lacking in stuff. We had that all taken care of, didn't have a problem. But then we also had that other, because there's so many moving parts during a crisis that trying to get all those things in place is one of the hardest things, and get the timing set up for that stuff, which is very difficult also. So,
For me, when I first encountered this, I was like 23. My mom was getting discharged home, and a couple of concerns, they were telling me I was going to need to bathe mom, and that was like, oh, I don't know about that. But then they were telling me I needed help with physical therapy, and I'm like, I think you have the wrong child. I have a history degree at the time. I don't know that I can really help with therapy. And I think we see a lot of families, and Amber and Jen probably see this too, where they just, you're getting asked to do something that's way outside of your comfort zone that you didn't know you were going to, you're like, no, you guys are going to do that. That's why they're here. And that's not how it works. And it's shifted now because mom did well and she's better, but now I'm trying the roles changing phase where mom and dad maybe need to start letting me into to that decision making and like starting to plan. And so that when we do have that crisis, as Renee mentioned, that like maybe we've built up enough of a crisis muscle, if you will, that we can actually flex it through that crisis or have that support to push us through. And even though I do this for a living, I've done it 5 years now, dad has no desire to actually let me into that role yet. So
Yeah.
still struggling with it a little bit myself.
I know that when I first had experience with this, I was young too. I was 21 when my mom died. And 5 years later, my dad passed. Had no clue what anything was. I didn't even know home care existed. I didn't even know it was a thing, and was not told it was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing till many, many, many years later. But we went to the hospital. They gave us hospice. So we had hospice, and that's all we had. And that's all we knew even existed at the time. And so through both of their illnesses, that's all the help we had. And I'm surprised I'm not with a hospice company, because I'm such a huge advocate after going through that. They were amazing. They were absolutely amazing. Between the social work and the chaplains and, everybody that comes in and helps, it was such a good experience for me and my entire family. But I had no idea. So now that I'm in this role and I'm, able to educate people and let them know all those services that are out there that can be beneficial to them, because we didn't have a clue. We didn't have any idea what was out there. And I was so young here, I didn't know anything. I was still trying to get through college. It was horrible. And so you run into these families that are at a loss. They don't know what's out there. They don't know what's available. And if we can't help them personally, I always want to be an advocate and a resource for these people to get the services that they need. So I just find so many people don't know what's out there even today, when there's such an abundance of our companies. Back when my parents had hospice, there was like 1 or 2 choices. It was the hospital hospices. They had community hospice. That's the only one I even know that was out there. So now there's just so many choices. So I like to at least be able to let people know what's out there, and so help educate them.
Amber, I'm going to pick on you because I've heard you talk about the fact, your family is like generations in the senior living, but nonetheless, I remember you talking about these conversations. It sounds like you guys might be the one family that actually feels more proactive. So I'll let you kind of get in there. So,
Yeah, I kind of sat quiet for a second because I felt like maybe my family is the unusual one in the bunch. But you're right.
Yeah.
We have multiple generations that work in senior care or work in the hospital system, and we know the importance of having a plan in place, especially in crisis mode. I've been very lucky to be surrounded by mentors and peers who are happily able to step up and educate me when I need it, or share resources when I have nowhere else to go. But our family has been very proactive of including our loved ones in the conversations as well, making sure we're having care conversations when everyone is still cognitively able to. And I think that, as uncomfortable of a conversation as it can be, I think that is what really helps have a little sense of calm in the situation, and that some people still feel like they have some control over their own care. So we have had many family meetings, and we just know they're going to be uncomfortable, and we power through them, but it's really great to have a plan in place, and for the person who is receiving care in our family to know that they have a little bit of control and a little bit of say in it. And I think that's really what is key.
Oh, very good. Brennan, I look like you're going to say something. I don't know to cut you off.
I think that is one of the biggest challenges, is that because when you're having the health issues and the moving and all the other things that are happening, that the people, the clients, they feel like they have no control, and your family members, they feel like they have no control, and trying to give them as much as you can, but keep them moving forward is always my big goal, is just to keep moving forward. It might be slower steps, baby steps, but just keep talking about it, keep bringing it up, keep consistently pushing to have them, encourage them to talk, so that they are feeling like they have some control. Because I can't imagine, like I said, I look fast forward, I always think, oh gosh, put me in this position, try to, see what it would feel like. And I can't imagine how, when something's going, you're either losing your spouse of life, or you're losing something, a mobility or something that you can't do anymore. And all of a sudden everybody's coming in and telling you what's best for you. I think that would be extremely difficult. And I love when I have them, like I said, it's great when you see them have a light bulb moment, like, okay, it's okay, it's not going to be so bad. And part of that is having the happy, the smiling faces on the other side, meeting somebody, having them experience the nursing homes is what they call, because they're not, they're different. The communities, senior communities, are not what they have in their heads a lot of times from history. And that's part of it is, they have happy hour. They have, there's bistros. There's also just there's people that you can talk to that are your age, because everybody's kids are so busy running around that they're not spending time. And loneliness seems to become one of the biggest things. And I'm always like, whatever you can do to be around more people and share and have those connections, those relationship connections, is going to be better. And they don't see that. All they see is what they're losing and not what they can gain from letting people come in and help them. And that's one of my biggest goals when I'm working with my clients, is that, please, I said, you need to be here for connections. Like, the stuff doesn't matter, the places doesn't, it's the connections that you're making with the people around you. And I love seeing it when they have those light bulb moments, like, yeah, they'll go in and they'll have a new friend or something. And even if I follow up and I see somebody later, I love seeing when they have, they want to introduce me to their best friend now, and it's somebody they didn't have a connection with before. So that's really nice to see that kind of stuff. So that's what, giving them that kind of control. So.
Yeah. That was for me when I was trying to convince my own mom to come to the adult day setting. My mom was not a social person. And so she was like, those people are going to look at me, or they're going to think this. And so to get her to know that they had pet therapy, because she was an animal lover. So that was huge, to let her know that, you're going to get to see, I found out that they had a dog that was going to come, and I brought her on the day that we were going to be touring and have pet therapy that day. And so that was a selling point. So from that point on, I just kind of learned to hear what a caregiver's cry is and hear what a guest want is. And sometimes in learning that you have two types of people, you have those that you could just jump right in and, be very forthcoming and barrel right through those hard questions and those hard situations. And they're good with it. They, yes, this is what I want. I think I would like this. No, I don't want this. And no, I don't like this. And it's okay if they know that adult day is not what they want, or long-term care is not. They've said it a million times over, but you as a caregiver know this is your option. And so you understand that sometimes you're making a decision that's against the will or the wishes of your loved one, but it's what's best for you. So sometimes you're navigating a whole lot of emotions, but if you can get the buy-in of your loved ones and you can appeal to what they want, if it's the pet therapy, if it's the relationship, the friendship, if you don't use the term daycare and it's a club, or it's where you're going to meet friends, or this is the same place Miss Pat goes, the lady that you sit next to in church, or Mom, remember we met Miss so-and-so and so somewhere. This is where she goes. Oh, this is where Dr. Healy says is a great place for you. And just always hang it on those identifiers where your loved one is comfortable with. Then I think they get that buy-in, and if they get that buy-in, then you have something more positive to work with, as opposed to just taking over their lives and making decisions for them. And because that's a horrible feeling, to force someone to be somewhere they don't want to be when they don't have a clue what you're doing with them. So we always want to make sure that we are being proactive, and that is a decision that you're jointly making together. Even if their dementia has, progressed to a stage where they really don't know what they want, you still want them to feel like you are advocating for what's right and what's best for them.
Well, through these conversations, one thing I was going to say, Jen and Michael, you both touched on something that part of the reason we're having these Zoom panels and things like that. Both of you guys you weren't, I'm not sure if you were millennials, but at the time, but you were 21, 26 when you started dealing with this. And statistically, 1 in 6 millennials today are full-time caregivers to an aged adult in their family. And I don't know that anyone's really talking to them, to really reach out to them. I think everybody targets the older generation, but they don't target, the ones that are getting kind of left in the dust. And if 1 in 6 with the number of millennials, that's about 12 million people. So it's a significant number of people that I don't think people are talking to. If you guys, I'll let you two, Jen and Michael, if you guys want to talk about what you experienced as someone in that age group trying to figure out, I don't know if you found support groups out there or how you were reaching out. So.
I did not. I am not. Well, I like to say I'm a millennial, but I'm not.
You were the age group at the time. Let's put it that way.
But I was 21 and 26. So I honestly I didn't have anybody. I didn't know anything about any support groups. Nothing. And with my mom, she's the one that died first. I was devastated. I quit school. I was in college. I moved. Circumstances I moved in with her and my dad was working, and I quit college to take care of her. It was just me. And I remember multiple times breaking down at night, just going into the shower and just crying, and not having really anybody to reach out to. Even the hospice was new to me. Hospice, I'm like, what, I can talk to them. I can, I really didn't know, and didn't have anybody, to be quite honest, and my dad was still sick. My dad had cancer first. So he was still kind of going through treatment when she had cancer. And yeah, I mean, I didn't have anything. And that was many, 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 many years ago. So many, many, many years ago. I don't want to say too many, but yeah, it was a while ago. So I'm sure there's, and Michael, you may have a better, hopefully people are reaching out to those younger. I know I personally get a lot of calls from the grandchildren, from those that are the younger generation looking for care for either a grandparent or a parent at this time. So hopefully there's more out there than there was when I had to deal with it.
Yeah. I think now, at the time, I didn't really have anyone. We had family. My mother and father were really young at the time. So, and I say that with the frame of reference now that we have some like 100-year-old patients, right?
Right.
My parents were young. But I think now for millennials, it's probably worse because you look on social media, and we talk a lot about this at church, and you just see these rosy, perfect lives that people try to present online. And the reality is most of us are just a mess. And so I think like the questions, the success that Amber and Renee and Regina and folks have with this is when you can move to being intentional. Like, I think that's a way to summarize what they were trying to say with this. And so for my family, if we've been really smart, could we have started being intentional before, my mom had that health setback, or even since then in a unique way. And so, those are things we do that make us successful business people. But we don't always bring that home to the family in any kind of meaningful way. And I think now that I'm a parent, I'd love to be more intentional with my kids. It's the only way you can make things work. And so then you throw a sick parent into that mix too, and it exacerbates it. So I'm gonna, Jen was talking about it, and I think we've done this on some of these other calls. But when is that time to have these conversations? I mean, one answer could be it's never too soon. But I think, for all of us, if you're not thinking about it, when you have a death in the family, like Jen lost her parent, or I lost my sister last fall, that's a great time to start having these family conversations, because everybody's kind of in a weakened state. And I would bet Amber and Jen can attest to this, that when you have a death in the family, that the people closest to that's when they're most likely to suffer a health setback of their own. Especially when you're talking about a senior population. So it's a great time to come around them as a family and do things like maybe having family meetings, because in doing that, you can create a mechanism for that safe space to start planning, to maybe like just, we had a family that did this. They would meet like twice a year at their lake house, and Saturday was like a volleyball tournament. Sunday was family meeting time, right? And they pre-circulated like an issues list, but they had an icebreaker, and it was really just going around the room and telling this patriarch who was from that World War II generation, silent generation of people, how much they appreciated him. And it was something that, right, like that, they didn't get touchy-feely with each other normally. But by doing that, it created that space that allowed them to say, hey, we love you, but we want to take care of you now, and kind of get at that role change that I was talking about earlier. So I'm going to put if it's all right, I'm going to put a link to a book in the.
Absolutely.
Did he go away?
I don't know.
He muted himself.
Where did he go? Okay.
There we go. I hit enter too soon. My apologies. There's a link to a book by Patrick Lencioni. If you read stuff for business, you've probably read something by him. And it's just trying to take a family from that frantic family and turn them into an intentional family, I think is kind of the gist of it. And so even if you're on here and you're on here for work or for looking for someone else to help out a friend, you have kids or, parents, like it's a great place to start for all of us probably.
Yeah. I know one of the ways I've kind of started having those conversations with my parents, my parents are young, and I joke that they are more active than I am. And so home care and home health is nowhere near in their line of vision. But once a year, I touch base with them and just say, hey, if anything were to happen, where can I find certain documents in your house, or do you have certain documents lined up? Or if we hear that a friend is in a car accident, we kind of use that as a way to break the ice of, if something like that were to happen to you, what would you like me to do, or where can I find these things? So that's kind of a nice way, I think, to ease your way into the conversation too, and just kind of get your brain thinking and the ball rolling really, really early in the care field.
Yeah, because otherwise then I end up going in there and having to search for all these things while we're trying to clean out somebody's house and sort and organize to try to find it so they can even find out what they can do next. So that's big to have that pre-planning and to start that conversation and find out just the location. That's a big starting point. So
yeah, and those documents can change every year, every 5 years, every 10 years. I mean, a lot of times that's a good reminder for people to touch base and, does anything need to be changed in those documents? So like I said, I try and touch base about once a year, but.
What do you guys, some signals to the families that are watching this as to, okay, Amber, you're doing a great job explaining the fact that you should be doing it all the daggone time, but probably a lot of places, well, a lot of people won't, okay, but so what are some clues that we should all be looking for when we come in for family get-togethers? We're going to get together for Labor Day to cook out, and we notice things that we're going, oops, help us understand, all of us, how we notice those things.
I'd say my top two, one would be, is someone driving who shouldn't be driving? Or can they no longer drive anymore? That's a big one. And second, I always look too at just kind of physical behavior. Are we a fall risk now? Are we noticing that we're shuffling through the home, or we may not be able to lift a pan from the stove to the sink? Little things like that. Those are usually my top two go-to kind of red flags to look for.
Yeah, and I kind of tend to watch conversations. If you've told me this story over a couple of times and you've kind of forgotten that we just talked about that, or you judge kind of your appearance. You used to be kind of dapper in your day, and you're not looking too kept, or not looking like you used to look. Maybe those are some kind of signals that I would look for, things like that.
I think any pattern, spending money suddenly, anything like that. I know with my father-in-law, anybody that called, he was giving away money, and tracking that stuff down. And like what Regina said, somebody that's really tidy, even in their home or their personal appearance, if that starts to look a little disheveled, that's certainly a sign. And one thing that comes up too is families that are, we're not sure if mom is taking her medication. We see things that should be getting refilled every 30 days, but they're not, or we find a pill on the floor here and there. So definitely signs like that.
Maybe if they're like regular cadence breaks. So if they always go to church on Sunday and they're not going to church anymore, or if they go to the country club and play bridge every Wednesday, whatever that thing is for them, if that stops, it could be because maybe they're not feeling as well. Maybe they're having a health problem, but they're not doing anything about it. So another question, maybe like, when was the last time mom went to the primary care physician? The answer is like more than a year or two. Like maybe there's something going on that we need to at least get them in to see their primary care physician for, if nothing else. So.
I don't know about you guys. I know myself that there were some signs that were like slapped me in the face when I was dealing with things. I remember going in to my parents, and then when I realized there was an issue with bill paying or what have you, and what I didn't know about it, but one day a cushion fell over on the couch on their sun porch, and all the bills were shoved behind it. Okay, that was kind of like, oh, and then why are they there? Then another one was I would come and bring groceries or do whatever for mom, and she lived in the country, and so I would always knock so I wouldn't scare her when I would, get there. And all of a sudden I would get there and I knock. She goes, "Oh, the door's open." So she was leaving it open when she knew I was coming. And so then when I'd come in, she'd sit in this one chair in this one and never move. So I'm going, this is weird. Okay. So I'm trying to, and so what I found out was she was hiding. Now, I don't know if you've all noticed this, but they're really good at hiding. Okay. And so hiding different issues. And so I was not seeing her move about because she was setting it up to where I wouldn't, and so I ended up going, one time I was going to go get her car washed, and I said, "Okay, do you want anything while I'm in town?" And really the only reason I had the car there was just so people think somebody was parked in the driveway, and I'd move it every time and, whatever. And so I said, "Anything you want?" She goes, "Yeah, a Big Mac." And so I went to McDonald's and come back, and I had a plan. So when I came back, I walked right past the living room where she was sitting and went to the dining room and set it up as, so that she would have to come. And that's when I realized, why she had been doing this. Okay. So, I mean, what kind of thing, there's, if anyone has not dealt with it, you're going to find out that they're very good at hiding the infirmities and the issues. So what kind of things can you help people look for?
So some things like when you start looking at health risks, you want to look for, look at their ankles, see if they're sitting with their feet crossed all the time, see if they're swollen, feet swollen a little more than they generally are. You can tell in their hands, if their hands are swollen, their skin starts to look a little dry, if they're not drinking enough water. I think like one of you said, medication's been on the floor. If they're really taking it, if they're not taking it, you'll see pills that have fallen on the floor, or the bottles are still filled. They're on the table, but they've not had the caps off of them, or there's bags of them, or there's 15 prescriptions of the same prescription right at hand. Or you'll see patterns and habits of the same canned goods purchase. They purchase the same thing over and over again because they forget that they already have this, or they open up the same thing, or the same breakfast has been sitting there. Or like in your mom's case, the Big Mac maybe you put it there and she said to you, "Oh, I'll get it later," and you hung out a little bit longer, and you later on that afternoon, that hamburger is still sitting there into that evening because they really don't eat it. That's just something that they wanted, but at the time, but then time gets away, or she just forgot that she even had it because it was in another room and not in front of them. So you just kind of look for little signs like that. You look for things in the refrigerator that shouldn't be in the refrigerator, or food that has expired. All sorts of things. You think of. You look for sclaring in the eyes. If they stopped brushing their teeth, they've lost their teeth. "Mom, where's your teeth? Where's their glasses? Why? You have Band-Aids in between your glasses. What'd you do to the glasses?" All of those signs.
Something you said, Jim, reminded me of this, that, a lot of times they'll hide, folks hide things from loved ones because they don't want to admit, or, I'm not a psychologist. There's a lot that goes on there, but sometimes we see it. I feel like we see a lot where there's one sibling who's here, who's around enough, who notices this stuff. So if you're on here watching and you're that sibling who's not in Indianapolis with mom or dad, and you're coming into town, keep an open mind and listen to your sibling a little bit more than maybe you'd otherwise be inclined, without getting into the whole psychology of siblings. But because chances are that person whose boots are on the ground, so to speak, has noticed a lot of this stuff and is maybe in their own way trying to tell you they're concerned that something's going on with mom or dad. But maybe they're just calling you all the time about mom and you're like, "Oh my gosh," that's something we see, because otherwise what ends up happening is when you start care, if you guys don't develop that dialogue, I'm sure Amber and Jen have had this happen where like we get care in place and then son or daughter from out of town comes in and they try to change it all. And that's not helpful for mom or dad either. So, figuring out how you're going to talk with your sibling or the other primary caregivers that are involved is so important, and maybe is the cue, all the cue you need.
And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you have the one that doesn't see it, that's there every day, and then the one that comes in says, oh my goodness, they can see all the changes that have happened. And sometimes it's the opposite, just depends on, but always the one that can see it has to be the one that can address the questions. So, but yeah. Yep. I've seen it both ways.
Okay, but so we've identified that we need to talk to, we need to have a talk, right? So somebody's noticed that mom or dad has declined. There's something that's concerning people, what have you. Now we're dealing with, we have to get over past denial, on both the kids and the parents' issues and whatever, and the fear of losing control on the parent side. Dave, we're going to pick on you. You're kind of a frontline person here and I will tell you from my own experiences, we've had my in-laws, my parents, my uncle in different senior living communities. And there is a vast difference between one and another. And right now my uncle's in one, my mom's in another. They both love theirs. Okay. And the sibling rivalry does not end at 90, I will tell you. Okay. Because theirs is really the best and the other one sucks. And so I think they're right both ways. As long as they're happy, I'm happy. Right. So, but one of them is very social, one of them is not. And that, so Dave, you're a frontline. I wish I would have known you when I was dealing with all this to help guide through that. So how do you have that conversation with mom or dad? And you're with the siblings as well. How do you have this conversation to help them to assuage those fears of going to a nursing home, which is not normally the case?
Yeah, I think there's a couple sides to that. I think one of them is just an abundance of empathy. I think, in dealing with the parents, somebody, I think Regina or somebody said like the nursing home, everybody thinks that that's all that one umbrella. And that if you go to a senior living, that you're giving up everything. And, you look at your life from, learning to ride a bike to going to kindergarten to owning your own home, it's all about independence. So from their perspective, they think any type of change is going to be a loss of independence. So it's really empathizing with them, educating them that this is really to keep you independent. You just need help with a couple things and they're going to keep you independent. I like to tell the story that, I stay really busy and I, utilize a dry cleaner to have my shirts pressed and everything else. Does that mean I'm giving up independence? You need a little help managing your pills and they're going to do that for you, but you can still do a lot of other things. So there's that education piece to that to help them understand what we're trying to do. But it's also game planning with the kids too. Really having a strong plan with the children that are going to make this decision. And I'll just tell a really quick story. I had a daughter who's had two sisters. Parents were not going to want to budge, but they knew they had to make this change. So the daughter and I strategized to where she liked the spreadsheets and how I organized that. Her dad was a financial person background, knew that he would like that. So we went and visited 5 communities. I gave her all the notes. She had the brochures. And then she sat down with her dad and said, look at all this info. Look at all of this that, I'm working for you. I'm doing this to help you. And it was just enough of his world with spreadsheets and everything that it intrigued him. And so we got him to go on a tour. He still did not want to go, but I watched that click happen where he was walking around and he realized there's no nurses here. This is not a clinical environment. This isn't what I thought it was. And by the end of the tour, he was like, Kelly, do you want my snow shovels? I don't need this. Who wants my gardening stuff? I want to be here. And it was just this complete aha moment. And he's completely happy. His wife is happy. And so long answer. Sorry, everyone.
No, that's perfect.
Oh, that's great.
No, you're very good.
Don't be shy about long answers. I think that your experiences are what's really going to resonate with someone that's trying to figure this whole thing out. So
Yeah.
Dave's really good with, I had a client that he came in and talked to, and now she wasn't ready to make that jump, but she loves the fact that she made that connection with him now. And she's planning on calling him to get him to the next level because she knew that she wasn't ready for it yet. But just talking to him and knowing what was out there, and it was never, and the fact that she knew, okay, I can pull the trigger when I'm ready, that gave her a little more control, and she loved having that, and she loves Dave. So
Thanks.
but it's one of those things where I do think that that's huge because, like I said, I always touch in every once in a while. I try to just reach up the phone and call just to see how everybody's doing. But it's funny because, I mean, in keeping them moving forward and making sure that they're doing okay. And that was one of the things where when you had gone and talked to her, that made her feel she just is, and she knew the things that she had to do to get ready to move to that place and to get to that next step. So it is about taking it a little bit at their pace, but also keeping them moving. I said moving forward. Some will go faster than others, some won't. But making that connection and having those people who can help you on those other sides, finding each client's carrot, what's going to make them make that jump, what's going to be that thing that makes them sizzle is the thing that makes them say yes and agree. What's going to help them. So yeah.
As senior home companions, one of the easy things we'll do is just do a conference call with everybody who's involved, maybe as part of developing the plan of care. Because ultimately, selfishly, we need there to be a primary point of contact. Because if, again, multiple people are calling in trying to change the schedule, that doesn't escalate into good care for our loved one. But usually that gives people that space to learn and educate across the board. And then, a real outcome goal of that is to maybe give everybody a role, not just that one person who's going to be our main point of contact. Maybe someone can do the billing, and there's the primary caregiver that we're going to go to for the schedule and the care. But maybe there's someone who's like the researcher too. If you've got several siblings or a dad that can, present facts for everybody. If you do family meetings, this is something you can try to achieve ahead of time. So that, we see families that are the most able to respond to the crisis have already kind of figured this out. And when I started 5 years ago, that never happened. And now it's starting to happen, which is kind of cool. So.
Very good. Renee, you jumped in earlier, and I'm going to pick on you because I've been in that world for a while. When you're dealing with, I was in real estate for years, and I actually specialized in this downsized move, from somebody moving from their 6-bedroom house where their kids were to a 3,500 square foot, midlife house. Okay. And they didn't have to make that move, so they could procrastinate it. And so they'd come over, and it was, by the way, Dave, I know this is in your world as well. They would come in and see that new house, and it was a culture shock or they'd have a sticker shock because they found out the new house, even though half the size, was still more money. Then they'd go back to their house and see 50 years or 40 years or 30 years of accumulation of stuff in those 6 bedrooms. And they'd get so overwhelmed that they would go into kind of shutdown mode, and it would be years to make that decision. Renee, I know you walk into these houses all the time with that. How do you have that conversation about it? You don't have to freak out and be overwhelmed?
One of the things that I see over and over again is that a lot of times I'm going to these houses because of the age group and the people, when they're deciding to make this move, they have 40 years, 50 years of stuff and of their kids' stuff. And that's always the big thing is I don't know what I'm going to do with all this stuff, because they're looking at the stuff as holding this big value to it. And as we all know, everybody literally at the end has all the same stuff they're trying to get rid of. And so the big thing is letting them know that, hey, you go through, and the big thing to me is to tell them, pick the things that you love, that you know that you want to keep. Well, and identifying those things that you just have to have. And when you identify those things that you have to have and you love, you realize that you're only using 20% of what you own. I mean, you own all this of 80% of stuff. You don't ever use it. You don't touch it. You don't need it. And all you're doing is paying big rent to store that stuff. And that's what I always tell people is it's a lot of rent just to keep all this stuff in here to storage. So trying to keep them moving forward and getting them to see. And the big thing is that making sure that they know that the things that they know and love. And also I always tell them, if you love something and it's too big for you to take with you, take a picture of it. You get the same memory from it that you would if you had sat there and looked at it in a room. It's the same thing. It brings up the same memory, same emotion, but yet you don't have to pay rent to store it. So my big thing is that this stuff is holding you back from it, but you can't take it with you. You can't do anything with it. You're not using it. It's really just something that holds the memory. So I'm always trying to encourage them. And it's funny, once they start, the one thing I love is when they start, all of a sudden at first they're like, oh, no, you have a little bit of hesitation on getting rid of stuff or liquidating some things. And then once the ball starts rolling, look out, because then all of a sudden, like, oh no, sell that. Oh, sell this. So it is kind of trying to explain to them that, this, you can liquidate that and it can help pay for your move, or it can, you can not have to pay rent for it anymore. Or it also, one of the things I always hear from a lot of the parents is that the kids have been storing, they think their kids want all this stuff. Well, when I come in and I'm saying, hey, do you, this is the time frame, this is what we need to do, you got to come get it, or you don't want it. The kids usually don't want it. The parents just think that their kids are going to want it. So kids don't want their parents' stuff. They've moved on. They want lightweight furniture. They don't want that 800-pound, China cabinet that's sitting in the dining room. And so trying to, like I said, explaining that, and having the kids coming in saying, do you want this? And I'll have, here, call these kids and find out what they want and make sure that, so they'll go through, and I'll even have taken pictures of some of the furniture and saying, okay, your mom thinks you want this. Let me know. Is this a keep or a sell? And so that is a big hindrance to them. And once they realize that they don't need it and don't want it, that helps, and that alleviates that, and it keeps them moving forward with letting them. And then that's when we go in and say, okay, let's get the estate sale going so we can take care of all this. So you can just have the stuff that you know and love, and you have the freedom to go about, and it won't, because it costs a lot more to store furniture or to move it than it does to sell it. So that's kind of where we're at. So.
And from experience, I, in my 20s, when my parents were gone and I was left with everything, the whole house. I mean, I had a brother who lived out of state, and I mean, he really didn't want it either. And so I literally I had to get a storage unit, because I got a storage unit. I put a majority of it in there. He did take a few things, but I have, still to this day, I have boxes of, I have some furniture that I kept, some pieces that, that I really wanted. But I am such a purger now because of this, because I moved and had to move things from place to place to place over the last 20 some years. And it is a burden. It truly is. And I have boxes of paperwork, boxes of photos from great people that I don't even know. I mean, they were very good at writing on the back of pictures and writing, so, but what am I supposed to do with that? I don't know what to do with all that. I feel guilty getting rid of it, because they held on to it for a reason. And so I feel like I need to hold on to it. But I will tell you, and there were some times where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And I just put things in the back of a truck and I took them and got rid of them. And later in hindsight, maybe I should have kept that one thing, but right now I am very minimalist. I don't save my kids' artwork. I don't, because I don't want, if something happens to me, to have them left with all of that to figure out what to do with, and to think, oh gosh, I need to hold on to this because mom would want me to. No, I don't. If you want it, keep it. If you don't,
I can't imagine though going through what you did at that age, because all of your friends are out doing all their fun stuff and doing everything, and you're trying to deal with big lifetime issues that you shouldn't have to deal with at that young of an age. So that alone, so you're allowed to have a little bit of a tinge there with I should let that go. But I've had people who have held on to stuff and had paid $160 a month for a storage unit for 12 years, and then opened it up and said, Renee, get rid of it all. There's nothing in here that I want. Yeah. And that's where it's really hard, because I'm looking at going, ooh, there's $23,000 you just spent on, storing something that you didn't really want. And when we go in, that's why when we're going in, we're looking at going, okay, is this a value? A lot of the numbered prints and the pictures and stuff don't have any, really they don't have any value now. That was a big thing for collectors at that time, but there's only a few, like I said, prints and artists that are really, high value. But still, even when you look at the value of them, okay, so when people are looking, like the Tupperware, the classic Tupperware, everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's worth so much. I'm like, yeah, it is, because you paid $5 for it. Now you can probably get 15. So really, is it that important to hold on to that $10? Is that what you're wanting to hold on to? So that's kind of where when people are saying, oh, that's worth so much money, it's, based on what you paid for it, then you might, but so you can't get caught up in the numbers. It has to do with the function of your living style in your home, and using
Right.
your rent, using the space that you know, carved out in this world for you to, as the most functioning that you can, and to enjoy it. And you
Mhm.
don't enjoy it when you got boxes and paperwork and stuff sitting around, and plus that gathers it. So,
Yeah.
so that's one of the things. But like I said, so that was that how many, you know, how many months that she had, or years, I should say, 12 years of having that, and then didn't need it. But that's what everybody falls into that. And so a lot of times, like when we're going in, we're looking at it going, okay, is there value here? Is there not? And then you can, because I honestly would do the same thing. If it was my parents' home, you still, because you're like, oh, and especially after you just had the loss, then I can't even imagine trying to part with anything at that age. So, but
Mhm.
yes. So I'm sorry about that. That is just terrible. It's just such a
Thank
hard
you.
time to go
Thank
through that.
you.
That would be so hard. I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But I think
Regina,
that's something
you've
that's
got
really
people coming
important.
to you. And by the way, I am so excited about something. I've had a friend that I've been trying to get help for him. He's been a full-time caregiver for his mom for years now, and I've been begging him to get help to come in, either to maybe some in-home care or respite or something. And she is now coming to Guyan, by the way. So I'm beyond thrilled about that. So I was like, had a little happy dance when I heard about that. So how do you, for your perspective, and I'm going to get to the three of you guys to do the home care in a second. You're going to have one question to deal with, but anyway, for the three of you. But Regina, you've got, you know, the adult day where people can come for a day, or come for a afternoon, or come and be there every day, or what have you. How do you have that conversation, or how can we give the family that power to understand this resource that's there if they're wanting to try to take care of mom or dad at home, but they need extra help?
Well, for one, it's just like we said earlier, just letting them know that the resource is there, explaining to them how the resource works, taking the stigma out that it is a daycare center, letting them know that this is a place where your loved one can be and enjoy other people in the same situation that they're in, that there's community here for them, that there's comfort here for them, that there's care for their loved one here. And so just kind of setting it up. Sometimes, I mean, I like to call these love lies. Sometimes we have to tell a caregiver that their mom or dad or husband or wife is coming in as a volunteer. So we set up scenarios where you're going to volunteer for the day. Or like I said, we know they're going to come. We have that big, beautiful pool table right out front at Guyan. You know, perhaps that's something that draws a man. Or, you know, they both go to the same support group, and, you know, they can talk about that. So we just kind of create the scenario that fits the situation. Most often, just reassuring that caregiver that we have these services, that we're available. Sometimes we have what they're looking for, and sometimes they're still just not convinced that this is the place. But once they come try it, they get to come in, spend some time. I don't want them to rush through it. We invite them, come in for a tour, spend a half a day, let your mom, dad, husband, wife, loved one stay in the environment. You hang out, fall back, watch them experience what they're going to experience, and you experience some freedom, and you get to see them have a good time and see that they can do this without you. You think you can't do it, but they can do it without you. So that's what I suggest, is that they just come in, take the tour, take the place in, because, you know, adult days are not what they used to be. They're not in church basements. They're not one room schoolhouses anymore. They're not small little senior centers. They're evolving, and they're beautiful, and they're growing, and they're taking on a whole new look. And so what people know, what adult day cares to be, is not what it used to be. So I think the main thing is just getting them in here to see it for themselves.
Thank you. Now, for the rest of you, Amber and Jen and Michael, you're in home care and doing that. That's an area I think people don't really understand what it really is. Amber, I've heard you talk about how allowing someone from in-home care coming in to allow you to be the daughter or son or wife or husband again, you know, the person can change the sheets and make dinner or whatever else and let them do. So how do you have that conversation to help empower the family to have that conversation about what resources they have in your world as well? So I'll leave that to you guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of our initial conversations, especially in those situations, are with the son, the daughter, the grandchildren that are frankly burnt out. And they're having to take on a role that they have either never done before or may not necessarily have the experience to carry. And so we do have that conversation of, you know, having someone come into the home that can change the sheets and that can make the meals and that can help mom or dad bathe or get dressed in the morning. And so that now gives you the freedom to come over and visit with mom and dad. You get to sit down and have a meal together, and you get to have, you know, your quality conversations back. And it doesn't feel like a job to have to go over to mom and dad's house. So that relationship change, that shift, I think is really important, especially as someone is beginning to decline, because there's a little bit of a fear of what's to come. And they want to spend every quality moment they can with their loved ones while they're still alive. So a lot of times it's about recognizing kind of that burnout in the caregiver role, and kind of tailoring a little bit to that person's needs as well. Not necessarily just the loved ones, but the caregivers as well.
Anybody else? Jen, Michael, you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, that was spot on.
Okay. Yeah, she's good.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, well, guys, I'll tell you what, I want to thank you all for being here. I think that this one, just like almost everyone we've ever had, I've always wish it would stay longer, okay, that we could go into more depth. I want to do real quick, I'm going to do a screen share to show you guys something here. So anybody that, what's coming up. I just wanted to go into Life's Copilot. You always can go in here to, it's lifescopilot.com, and you can click on events. Of course, there's all kinds of other resources here as well. And if I can get my events to actually open, that would be lovely. My computer has been extraordinarily slow. Okay, so this was our talk today. On the 25th, we have one coming up, home modifications for senior living, for senior-friendly living. We have a group of people who are experts on that. Jack Barlow can come in and put any kind of ramps you need. McCool can as well, and do lifts and all kinds of other stuff. Matt can redo your house for you to get it safer. Brooke is with Westport Homes, and she specializes in wheelchair access or handicap access home building. So that's real exciting. Anne Marie does what Renee does as far as downsizing and stuff, but she also is working now. One of her things is she helps do that. We also have coming up here, misunderstanding the word senior care and all the things that are the misunderstood word is hospice. So we're going to spend a whole topic on with hospice specialists. We've got one coming up on the 22nd on geriatric care managers, and that's something I didn't even know existed until I got into this industry. Difference between home care and health care. So yeah, senior living is not what it used to be. So we have a ongoing bunch of classes coming up, bunch of things. So, and some of the same folks will show up, some will be different. It's exciting. So, so thank you all for being here. Any last things any of you guys want to say, or? You're all good? Okay. Well, guys, there'll be a video out on this on Life's Copilot. There will also be a video on our Life's Copilot Facebook page, and I'll send a copy of a YouTube video for all of you guys if you want to share it wherever you want to share it. So, hey, thanks for coming. I'll see you all later.
Guys.
Thanks,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.